Have you ever noticed those weird numbers that begin with ML that appear on so many NRC documents, references, file names? Even the website addresses associated with the files will have this weird number. What is this? This is known as the Adams accession number. Throughout the industry, you'll hear this referred to as simply the ML number for the obvious reason that it starts with M and L. The Adams accession number is sort of like a social security number for documents at the NRC. Essentially, a document gets submitted or born into the system, it gets assigned an accession number, and that accession number lives with it all the way until its death. Once you know the accession number, you can easily look up any document in Adams. For example, let's say I want to see this reference that they talk about here. I'd copy the accession number and I would go over to the web-based Adams search and go to the advanced search tab, and you go down here into the document properties section and select accession number and starts with, and then you paste the value in there and then you hit search, and lo and behold, there you have it. There's the document that they referenced, and in fact this is a package, and so you double click on it and it's everything associated with that package. And so typically, as is the case with this package, you get a letter that when you pop it open, it's essentially saying, hey, this is us, we're submitting this letter to you, here's a bunch of references associated with this letter. You pop it open and can get the gist of why this document exists and all these other ML numbers. Another thing that you can pull while you're in Adams here is that you can right click a document and hit properties, and it'll tell you in general, hey, this is a letter for a document type. You can go through and it will tell you the authors and all sorts of other information. One thing that comes in handy is that it will tell you the docket number, which you can use as a golden key to unlock a whole bunch of related documents. And it will also tell you the parent document. So for example, this one was in a package, so this is the package associated with it. Now the other item in this package contents is the actual document you were looking for from the reference. And so if you double click this, it's the enclosure that was with that letter. So here's enclosure 1, and it is the report that you wanted to see. And also up here is the company's internal document numbering scheme, which each company has their own unique numbering scheme, just to be fun. Another thing that you can do while you're here is that you can download all the documents at once if it's less than 100 and less than like 100 megabytes or something. And you can run exports, you can do all sorts of stuff. If you find an ML number and you enter it into Adams and it doesn't return a result, there's 2 reasons. One is that it could be a bug or a typo or something, and 2, it's a proprietary document. In either event, you basically have to email the NRC librarian to confirm which of the 2 options it is. If the document's proprietary, basically your search is over, or you could throw up a Hail Mary and do a Freedom of Information Act request to have a low probability chance of getting at least some of the information from that document into your hands, if it really meant that much to you. The non-proprietary version will have all these different redactions of the information, and the proprietary version will have all the information and all of its glory in there. In those instances, only the NRC staff themselves can look at that document, even though it has an ML number. Just a reminder that the web-based Adams is the public library, and the NRC staff themselves have their own sort of separate library, but they both use the ML accession numbers. Sometimes there won't be an ML number. I believe that the ML terminology got adopted into the system around like 1999 or something like that. And so documents older than 1999 won't have the leading ML in the digits. And I'll show you an example of those and how you can find those documents, because it's a separate Adams routine to reach those. So here's an old letter from the Clinch River Breeder Reactor program from like the late 70s. You'll see an example of the accession number here over in this lower right corner, and you can tell it's like half stamped in and like half penciled in, and you can get some like really creative penmanship on these old documents, but usually it's legible enough. So you'll just be scanning this old document for a 10-digit number that looks like that. And now once you have this old-timey accession number, what do you do with it? Well, if you thought it would be as easy as just going back to the advanced search tab and typing in the accession number here, well, too bad. Life's tough. You got to realize that you've got to go to document/report and then begin to type in new docs And at this point, you can start typing in your number, and it will start reducing the number of documents that began with those numbers. And then you can finally, upon entering it all, hit search, and it will finally pull up the document you wanted. And I was just demonstrating the whole spinny wheel thing. You can just directly copy and paste the number in there and it will pull up. Now for this document and many older documents like it, you will see that it got assigned an ML number in addition to the old-timey accession number. You can tell that they added this document from 1979 into the library in the year 2019. And then you can right click and hit get URL, and you can share this link with your friends to take them directly to the document. And so you just copy paste this URL, and it's a nice way of sharing it. Within Atoms, there's a separate library that you can access within the Advanced Search tab called the Public Legacy Library. And this is where all those pre-2000 documents are living. Let's say, for example, that you're a gas-cooled reactor person and you're interested in looking up Fort St. Vrain's Final Safety Analysis Report, which is a high-temperature gas-cooled reactor that operated in Colorado in the 80s. You type in document title contains Vrain, document title contains FSAR. Atoms is going to just sit there and spin around for a while for you. And then eventually it pulls up this, and you pop open a larger display of documents. You can see that there's all these different documents that still only have the old-timey accession number here. If you don't see an ML number in the accession number, you can be more or less sure that this is not available to you immediately. So this means that it is in microfiche format. I couldn't even do a different video just on what a microfiche is, but it's a thing that used to be used to store documents. You could either go to Washington, D.C. and pay the public document room a visit at the NRC, and they've got a little microfiche machine there, and you could pull this up and you could sit there and look at it. Or the other way to get this document would be to download a form, submit a request for them to convert it from microfiche to a PDF format for you, in which case they would post it to the public library and give it an ML number. But it's all on your dime, okay? So like you have to pay a fee, and they have this third-party contracting firm that does it, and the fee depends on the number of pages and things like this. But it's like a pretty fast turnaround, I hear. It's like a day or two, and suddenly you have this document in your hands. So if you're going to go through that effort, you try to do some extra searching in here so that you make sure you have the latest revision of the FSAR and don't accidentally take all this time and money to print out revision 5 when they're up to revision 9 and all that. One thing to note is that you can actually search on the old-timey accession number just directly without having to type in new docs when you're in the Public Legacy Library. So that's neat. Some viewers may be thinking to themselves, Russell, this seems like a lot. Can't I just Google the ML number or just Google the title? Won't that get me far enough? And the answer is probably not. Googling works occasionally, but the NRC doesn't really do a great job of search engine optimization, SEO stuff. The other thing is that the NRC doesn't keep their website super up to date, so it will be weeks, even like months sometimes, before a newly revised regulatory guide actually gets posted to the website, let alone that it would be findable on Google. So let me give you this anecdote. Recently, I saw in the Federal Register notice that they were going to release Branch Technical Position 719, Rev 9. It had an ML number in it, and I popped open Atoms and just instantly had this document in my hands. Several weeks later, there were people that should have known about this that just still didn't have this document in their hands. And in the time it took anyone else to Google this document or for it to even appear anywhere else than Atoms, I had basically already made a podcast about this document. And basically all of my clients had this document in their hand as well, and we're getting a leap on the competition, essentially.